The passion that drives me is anything that I do is getting one step closer to bringing the right treatments to the patients.
The tagline for my company is humanizing AI for care.
For me, ethics and responsibility is not something you write a paper and forget about that. It's not about a paper, it's not about some writing or anything. It's about building the ways of working.
Super excited to come to the event. I mean, for people who are watching, we're at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas at an AI conference called Put Data First. And I'm talking to Asha and Mahesh, who's an expert in ethics, privacy, all the things that make people really nervous, particularly in healthcare when it comes to the innovations that we're coming out with in AI in particular. And this is a bunch of different facets I'd love to chat with you about. But maybe tell me a little bit about, what's your passion? What kind of led you to get into ethics and privacy? And, obviously in technology, that's a little bit more technical, more so than even philosophical.
True.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, my passion is I'm a technologist at heart. At the same time, I'm also very practical.
Right.
In the sense, like, technology is, it's if you don't apply the technology the right way, it can end up being really bad, especially in the industry like ours, like life science. It's all the more important to apply the technology the right way with the right giving it to the right people at the right time is it's very that's really critical to get to the success of any technology that we use. The passion that drives me is anything that I do is getting one step closer to bringing the right treatments to the patients. As you see, I mean, we're not immune to health problems. I mean, it's across the board. We all have our families, friends, all you deal with them on a day-to-day basis. When you think of your work is actually making someone feel better, it's all the more important. Like whatever we do, like that's what drives me. That's the passion. And sometimes like I end up going above and beyond and doing things because ultimately my goal is like it may not really look like oh I'm actually treating the patient or anything, but ultimately how it's you're doing something that is getting closer and closer to that big major.
That's one of the coolest things about dealing with data and AI. I grew up in a household where my mom worked in a hospital and in a radiology department. My dad did mailing systems and database types of things. But at that point in time, when I was young, I never imagined that I could do work that could have any kind of impact, direct or indirect, with data on healthcare. But I grew up around healthcare people. I was always inspired by it. But I find it remarkable that fast forward a couple of decades and all of a sudden, jobs that didn't exist, no one even heard of them, people like us can build careers with, and we can actually have direct impact. I think that's one of my favorite things about the kind of work that we're doing. I think what really gets me excited is to hear people with your passion that are really responsible and looking at the ethics component of it. The tagline for my company is humanizing AI for care. And it's may sound cliche to people, but the passion that is driving you is familiar to me because it really is about human beings. It's about relationship. You already mentioned, the people in your life. I think there's probably I would say it's probably about the most critical thing we can do right now is to get people focused and coming to places like this, not only to learn, but to actually lean in and influence the direction that technology is being taken in to make sure it doesn't lose that humanity components of it. Talk to people about, how you think about influencing people as they're starting to think about design, or sometimes they probably are not starting where you would think that they should start. I mean, what are some of the things that you see that we should be doing and we can kind of challenge people to lean in on to make sure that we're not losing track of why we're doing what we're doing. It's really about making people's lives better. It's not about technology just because it's cool.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Ultimately, that's where you look at what is the intended use of the technology. Right? Yeah, what is your intentions? Is it purposeful? So, yet in terms of influencing, to your point, uh, what you mentioned about humanizing AI, that's a really a concept we all have to, I would say, embed in ourselves. Sometimes we're so passionate about technology, the data, and all those things. So there is no North Star, right? We're all running towards like it's pretty cool. I want to do that. But however, when you have that North Star, and then to your point, where is that ultimately going? What is the impact? Who is going to impact? So you need to figure out a way to inspire people on that one. Yeah, you're right. How do you influence? Influence is showing that North Star.
Right.
And that's something that we do in a company like ours. Is we have something called Cradle. What that is it's something writing on the wall, but at the same time they've done a great job in terms of I would say embedding that Credo values in everybody and in every employee, saying like, yeah, our first, I would say there are a lot of things on that one, but basically in a nutshell it says we are here to serve our patients, the providers, and our customers. That's what we are here for. And one other thing also we do well is in terms of bringing heart and science.
Yes.
The science by itself will not really solve all the problems. You need to also bring your heart to that. Whatever you do, that way when you combine science and heart, that's when things actually happen. That's when it becomes more meaningful and impactful. To your point, how do you influence people is also show the, I would say, success and the value, right?
Right.
What has done. I mean, if you really look at a lot of things that we have done, we have applied AI in terms of in terms of. I'll give you an example, right? During the pandemic, right? We had a vaccination program, which we're all working on that COVID vaccination. So we actually used a lot of data and also AI, machine learning, whatnot, all those things. We built a lot of models in terms of predicting where we want to run the clinical trials in. So we our predictions were so good, so accurate. We were able to finish the clinical trial ahead of time with also less patients enrolled into the trial.
Amazing.
So that's but by itself is amazing in terms of like, I mean, getting even one day closer, like one day earlier, it makes a difference in, especially when you're running against the time.
That's right.
Those are some of the, I would say, examples. There are some great examples. I mean, when you look at that and say, yeah, we were able to do it successfully. Why? Because we were all so passionate.
Yes.
We felt like we got to do something. I mean, this is not the way to live for people, right? You need to get there. I mean, that's when you look at those examples and use them to influence people, right? In terms of that, and also you mentioned about the how do you do responsibly, ethically, and all those things. That's not something like you can forget about. For me, ethics and responsibility is not something you write a paper and forget about that. It's not about a paper. It's not about some writing or anything. It's about building the ways of working using the ethics and responsibility. So if you build that culture, it's all about culture again. Building that culture into your organization, and how to do that, and also inspiring, and also I would say recognizing people who do that,
Right.
who actually apply that on a day-to-day basis. That's one way.
You know, I love the example you gave during the pandemic, where I was actually working on the health system side of that, actually in New York, and I have never seen such good in people that I saw during the pandemic. To your point, it was a passion. I mean, it was a shared one, because we all felt an immense responsibility, because it was a crisis of like we've never seen before. And I don't think people probably have an understanding of how little we knew at the outset, which makes what you accomplished developing a vaccine even that more remarkable. Uh, we thought it looked like pneumonia. We thought it looked like flu. We thought a lot of things. If we'd applied any models that we had at that point, we would have misdiagnosed it.
Exactly.
Right. But the fact that people rallied around it, I mean, even in my own health system, the thing that was really remarkable to me is I saw executives responsible for marketing that were showing up to go help set up the tents and administer the COVID tests. I mean, it was an all hands on deck type of thing. And I really saw the good of humanity on a whole different level. But I really wanted to bring attention to the fact that you mentioned how much was done and so quickly because people came together with a mission. It was passionate and it was about people. It was not about technology.
No, it's not about technology. We were all using technology and applying. At the same time, it's all about our goal was to get the treatment fast, get the vaccine to the people. That way they can lead a normal life. So to your point, it was the people came together and there wasn't a single day anyone complained that we were working late, working long hours, and not a complaint. The people were like literally happy to do that. It's like, to be honest with you, people who weren't even savvy technologically, and they come to us and say like, "Okay, how can I help? Can I do the data curation? Can I do this? Can I do annotation? Can I do anything?" Like that was really truly inspiring. I wish we could bring that same culture without a pandemic.
Yes. I mean, for once, could we actually hold on to something that was really, really good and keep it because it is good? I I think, one of the challenges we deal with, particularly where we're trying to introduce new technology is the trust factor. And what I hear more about in terms of trust is not really where I think our biggest challenge is, but it's more on can we trust AI? But what I've come to understand, and I hadn't really thought about this, but I was having recording an episode with a gentleman who's a clinical psychologist. His name's Dr. Larry Kuhn. And he's been, working with executives for a long, long time and coaching them in leadership and mentoring and things. And he had just published a paper about the erosion of trust. And he put some stats behind things that I think we all kind of intuitively can feel and we know. But the example is, he said about 20 years ago, if you surveyed 10 people, 8 of them probably would say that they trust the government. Or maybe the same number would say they trust clergy, or they trust law enforcement, or they trust the CEO, or whatever. Trust has eroded to a point now we're talking about the low 20s in many of those cases. And so we have a much bigger challenge ahead of us because people just don't trust each other very much anymore. And so the things that we're talking about that can have such life-changing impact, life-saving impact, how do we start to attack this trust issue that we know we're working from a deficit and to start to engage people in a way that they feel like they can lean in and start to trust? Because the biggest thing, I'm sure you hear about it all the time, is fear. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear, your thoughts on how we can really address the fear. And more importantly, when someone like you is having an opportunity to talk to people, I want them to hear what motivates you and what they can do, because all of us get inspired at some point, which changes the trajectory of our life and what we really commit ourselves to do. And I would love for people to hear from you what you feel like is really important, what's meaningful, and what can they do, and how do we help them to get past the fear?
Yeah, when you say fear, is it the fear of, I would say, using AI, or is it building the trust?
It's going to take my job.
It's going to take my job. Yes, yeah. True. That's true. That fear is there. I think what at least I do when I go talk to, for example, when I go talk to a scientist, saying, "Oh, yeah, we're bringing this AI.
Right.
That's gonna, that's gonna do the next, I would say, what we call, can it design a molecule or whatever it is?" I mean, there are scientists who, that's their life and blood, right? I mean, they do experiment, they studied local biology for so many years, even the clinicians and all those things. So I think you need to go with an attitude of saying how it is going to help you. So I mean, I use the framework called "What's in it for you, what's in it for me." That's a framework I usually apply.
Most of us can relate to that.
Right. You can relate to that, right? In terms of like, go with the messaging around like, this is an AI. it is going to do so and so for your job,
Right.
but to focus on how it is helping them, right? Not something like, oh, this is going to replace you. I mean, that's a different story. But
Right.
when they say it is going to help me do my job better, they will be receptive to that thing. That's something that has worked for me over the time. And also, when I go to them, I go with the attitude is, can I help you with something? Like, what can I do to help you? What is in it? And also make sure that you're focusing on what is in it for them. It's that actually helps them get the fear out. So one thing, I mean, I also this is an example I want to give you. I was working with a clinical development leader who happens to be an MD. They have a lot of MD, PhD. They have a lot of, I would say, knowledge in whatever this is, and we're bringing this system that would say, oh, it's going to answer at all these clinical questions and all those things, and we're going to roll that out.
Right.
One thing I went and assured, like, there is no way this system is going to do what you can do, because you gone to school. Like, how many years? It is 10 years of school with all this practice that you have. There is no way anything this can do even like half of what you can do, that knowledge. But at the same time, it's going to, I would say, eliminate the tedious work that someone would do. So I would say I would go with that attitude of like how it is going to helping you, what it's going to do for you, versus like yeah, it's going to do like magical things. So
Yeah.
people have that, I would say, have that fear, right? I mean, yeah, it's true with all of us, like that's going to replace our jobs. But however, the more and more that you look at that, it's yeah, but the way I approach it is that I would say that's the approach I take. Than saying like, yeah, it's going to do something like magically, it's going to solve all your problems, which is not the reality to begin with. I think people understand that.
So yeah, I think you're right, but there's definitely something to that in really making it personal for them. In fact, what is in it for them? I love that because you're putting it back into the context of, hey, this really is about how we can help you, how this technology can come along and support what you need to do and make things easier for you.
Make this.
Hey, there's a conversation I've been having a little bit recently, and it's about how much human-like we should make AI, and initially I was really thought, well, it's actually good in some ways if we can kind of emulate certain things, so that for example, if someone's having a really bad day and they're running your doctor's office and you call them and they're stressed, they might be short, right? So having someone who's even keeled, I mean, I think that's an interesting use of AI. But the other thing that concerns me even more is people have come to trust technology so much so that they're not aware of the risks that they take now. The things that they'll put online that they probably should never put online, because they're just comfortable. It's just become second nature. But it was only in the early 1990s that was even a possibility. So for me, I think we got to have some guardrails. I think, not quite sure where where do you draw the line, but um, how much do we really want it to feel human? Because people can get way too comfortable way too fast. They've already done that, and I think we've really not done a great job making it feel human.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know what yeah, in terms of humanizing and all those things, like we also talk about like every solution or every product that we design, like yeah, we want to bring in like a human aspects, like human centered design. Is it going to resonate with a human at the end of the day, right? That's what we do. That in terms of that, I would say, yeah, but there still needs to be a human touch. I mean, you can humanize everything at the same time. One example I would give is, let's say a patient goes to a hospital, and yeah, there are many times you can have a mostly automated robot treating you, whatnot, and all those things. But ultimately, you know what, a patient, we all seen the placebo effect, right? Placebo effect it's a real thing. Like, ultimately, what really matters is someone is like holding their hand and saying, "You're going to be okay," right? Ah, that carries a long way than anything else that you can do at that point in time.
Right.
I think going to that level, I would say there. I feel like that. Yeah, but you, no matter what you do within a machine or in a way, but that human touch still needs to be there in a very strategic point. I'm not talking about like going in entertainment or something. You're playing a video game. Yeah, great, that's fine. But when it comes to the critical aspects of humans, whether it's health or in a you're in a situation where you actually need a little bit of a support, someone holding your hand and saying those are the aspects I don't think we can replace with an AI. I mean that still would be there. So one other also one thing I want to mention, one example is when we design this AI based diagnostics and also clinical decision support, all those things, so we always say human in the loop. There is a clinician in the loop. They're the ones looking at the output and making a decision. But how are the regulators? They come back and say, you know what? If you a human can get complacent at some point, they will start trusting that. If that makes a mistake, they will know if it's a mistake. They're going to start following what kind of guardrails you're going to put in place in order for humans to even do the critical thinking and see what's right, what's not right. So those are the aspects that we have to consider when we do it, that the level of clinical decision support and the diagnostics type of
I agree with
oversight.
you, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that so much. Well, Asha, I can't thank you enough for joining me. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I hope that we can stay in touch. I'd love to dig into more of this. I think as things evolve, there's going to be a lot more to talk about in this space. So
Thanks for having me.
thank
Thanks for
you
the
so much for
opportunity.
joining
Thank
me.
you.
That's it for this episode of The Signal Room. If today's conversation sparked something in you, an idea, a challenge, or a perspective worth amplifying, I'd love to hear from you. Message me on LinkedIn or visit signalroompodcast.com to explore being a guest on an upcoming episode. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and stay human.